Welcome to the deep dive. So, you brought something interesting to our attention recently, this new Rocco Siffredi film, Blue, and of course the Netflix series Supersex.
Yeah, exactly. And it really got us thinking, didn't it? Here's someone who's been, well, a massive figure in the adult industry for so long.
Decades, really, and now he's popping up more in mainstream projects. It
Okay.
felt like a good time to take a closer look.
Definitely. So we've pulled together quite a bit news reports on Blue, naturally, but also interviews with Siffredi himself, biographical info, his Wikipedia page.
Even stuff like lists of the richest adult entertainers, and interestingly, a Reddit thread talking about that classic Visconti film, Rocco and His Brothers.
Which of course ties into his name, so quite a range of sources.
Right. And our mission here isn't just to list facts. We want to kind of unpack the big themes in Siffredi's career, from how he started, his impact, and these moves into the mainstream.
Trying to find those maybe surprising connections, the undercurrents, without just drowning in dates and film titles.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with the immediate thing. This new film, Blue. What's the basic story there?
Okay, so Blue is filming right now, actually, in the Marcia region of Italy. It's directed by Eleanor Puglia.
And Siffredi's in it.
He is, along with Alexia Quazzi, Shane Barletta, and Victor Vitali. The plot itself sounds, well, very relevant. It's about a young student, Luce,
Okay.
and she's navigating, the online world, specifically erotic websites, social media, and how deceptive that can all be.
All right. That feels incredibly current. The whole issue of online personas, the potential dangers.
Precisely. And the director, Puglia, has been quite clear about her intent. She says it's not about judging, but about informing.
Informing whom, specifically?
Particularly young women, it seems. Those who might see these platforms as like an easy path to becoming a content creator, maybe, but they step into it quite naively.
And find the reality is very different and maybe risky.
Exactly. That seems to be the core theme, the dangers, the illusions online.
Okay, now here's where it gets interesting for me. Siffredi's role. He's not playing himself or the kind of figure we associate with him.
No, he's playing Luce, his father.
The father. That's unexpected. It definitely makes you think about the film's perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. It sort of reframed. No, he used a few, but Rocco Siffredi obviously stuck. What's interesting is where the initial spark came from.
The story about the magazine.
Yeah. As a teenager, he finds a porn mag, sees a performer, and thinks, I want to do that. And the magazine was called Supersex.
No way. That's almost too perfect given the Netflix show title. Talk about foreshadowing.
It's pretty uncanny, isn't it? Especially when you consider his mother's hopes for him.
Right, she wanted him to be a priest. Or work on phones.
Yeah, something like that. A very different path imagined for him.
So how did he get from Ortona to adult films?
Well, his early work life was varied. He was in the Merchant Navy for a bit.
Okay.
Then ended up working in a friend's restaurant in Paris. And Paris seems to be where things shifted.
Because that's where he met Gabriel Pontello.
Exactly, the French porn actor. That was 1984, and it seems Pontello really inspired him to actually get into the industry. His first credited film was around 1986.
Sous la punition pour dépravé sexuel, I think.
That's the one. And the name, Siffredi, that wasn't random either.
It came from Alain Delon characters, right? Rocco Siffredi and Borsellino.
And Rocco Parandi in Rocco and His Brothers. So pulling from cinema for his persona.
Interesting. He even did some modeling briefly.
Yeah, a short stint. But he returned to porn pretty quickly and, well, developed that signature style.
The rough style. We should probably clarify what that usually involves in his films.
It often includes anal sex, sometimes spitting, slapping, choking, elements that have definitely drawn criticism over the years.
And his collaboration with Evil Angel, with John Staliano, that was important.
Hugely important. He considers Staliano a mentor. That partnership really shaped his career and visibility.
And then he went on to start his own production company.
Rocco Siffredi Produzioni, yeah, based out of Budapest. And the sheer volume of work is just staggering. Over 1,300 films as a performer.
You really can't overstate his presence in that industry for decades.
Absolutely not. But then there's the other side, his personal life, which adds another layer.
He's married, right?
Yeah.
To Rosa Caracciolo.
Yes, since 1993. They met in Cannes. She's Hungarian, a former Miss Hungary, and actually appeared in adult films herself.
With him.
Some with him, yeah. About 18 films in total, according to the sources.
And they have children.
2 sons, Lorenzo and Leonardo. And from what Siffredi says, they've always been very open with them about his work. No taboos in the family.
He mentioned Hungary being more accepting of his profession.
Yeah, he feels the mentality there is more open. He does acknowledge, though, that while his wife is accepting, well, Any woman would probably prefer her husband just for her. It's a complex dynamic.
It sounds like it. And his career wasn't just a straight line either. He retired, didn't he? More than once.
Right. First time was around 2004. He said it was to focus on his family, but he also talked openly later about struggling with sex addiction during that break.
That adds a significant dimension. So the addiction played a role in him coming back.
It seems so. He returned to performing in 2009, citing both his own frustrations and also being disappointed with the male talent he was directing at the time. He felt he needed to step back in.
And then he retired again.
Yes, in 2015, apparently after doing the reality show Celebrity Island, he said that retirement was out of love for his wife.
But he hasn't completely stopped. He still directs and produces.
Exactly. And he has actually performed again occasionally since then, like in a series called 4Cam's POV in 2023. It's this pattern of stepping away and then being drawn back.
It seems linked to those personal battles he's mentioned. The sex addiction, seeking help related to his mother. He also identifies as religious, a believer.
Yes, he's spoken about that. It adds another layer of complexity to the public figure.
Definitely. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. His career hasn't just been in the adult industry. He's crossed over into other areas.
Oh, absolutely. Mainstream media appearances are quite numerous, actually.
Starting with those Catherine Breillat art house films, maybe. Romance and Anatomy of Hell.
Right. Both known for featuring unsimulated sex. There was even controversy around Romance about whether actual intercourse happened on set.
Controversial, yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely put him in a different context. He did comedy, too.
A cameo in a French comedy, Porn in the Hood. And he became quite a recognizable face on Italian TV.
Those Amica Chips commercials, they caused a stir, didn't they? Got pulled off air briefly.
They did. Then he had his own show, Ci Pensa Rocco, and that docu-reality series, Casa Siffredi, with his family.
So really putting himself and his life out there.
And music, too. He worked with the Italian band Elio e le Storie Tese, directed a video, was in a song.
Performed with them at Sanremo, the big Italian music festival.
Yes, imagine that. Plus, cameos in Italian comedy films like Natalia Shinksdale.
And most recently, walking the runway for D Squared Down during Milan Fashion Week as a porn director character.
It shows a certain self-awareness, maybe even playing with his own image.
And there was the documentary about him, Rocco, in 2016.
Right, a dedicated look at his life, which leaves us naturally to Supersex.
The Netflix series, fictionalized, with Alessandro Borghi playing him. Siffredi had mixed emotions about it.
That's what he said. The series seems to be trying to connect his work, his life, themes of masculinity, desire, power. It's definitely pushing his story into a broader cultural conversation.
Which inevitably brings us to the controversies in how people see him. That rough style we mentioned.
It's been heavily debated. Some critics call it borderline misogynistic, potentially harmful.
How does he respond to that?
He frames it as an interchange of pleasure, pain, and pressure, insisting it doesn't come from hating women. But, it highlights how subjective interpreting these acts can be. Consent, power, it's all complex.
And that connects, interestingly, to that Reddit thread about Visconti's Rocco and his brothers.
Yeah, some users there were discussing the film's portrayal of rape, feeling it was maybe used problematically as a plot device, and pointing out victim-blaming dialogue in the film.
Which is a really stark contrast to the director of Supersex, suggesting Siffredi could be seen as a kind of a feminist.
Right. That specific comment drew quite a bit of side-eye from critics, precisely because of his film history, the spitting, slapping, choking elements. It just shows how wildly different the interpretations can be. There's no easy label.
No. On the financial side, though, things seem clearer. He's done very well.
Exceptionally well. Estimated net worth around $275 million, reportedly the richest male actor in the industry, thanks to smart investments, apparently.
But the accusations of objectification persist.
They do. Accusations of treating women like objects, though some also note he seems okay with being objectified himself. It's part of the contradictory image.
And public perception is split, I imagine.
Completely. Some men see him as a role model, bizarrely perhaps, while others strongly condemn his entire body of work. Polarizing is probably an understatement.
One last area, he even did theater.
Yeah, surprisingly. A piece called Autentico back in 2021, described as a kind of strange, genre-bending spectacle.
What was it about?
It tackled sex, eros, the differences between men and women sexually, and his own life, those two poles, porn and family. He said being on stage was initially terrifying, emotional, but ultimately rewarding for him.
Another evolution, maybe.
Seems like it. So when you look at the whole picture, It's quite a journey, isn't it? From this small town in Italy to being a global name in adult entertainment, weathering all the controversy, managing family life, dipping into mainstream culture.
And his story, especially seen through things like Blue and Supersex now, it keeps forcing conversations about sex, about masculinity, about how the digital world is changing everything.
Absolutely. It's far from a simple narrative.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, listening. Siffredi keeps evolving, keeps provoking these really diverse, often clashing reactions.
Yeah.
What does his persistence in popular culture actually tell us about how we relate to sex and fame and identity now in the 21st century?
Yeah, and thinking beyond him, what other kinds of icons are being built up today, and what's the potential cost for the actual people behind those images?
Something to definitely think about.